Okay, well, welcome back to Inside Trucking Drivers. Good afternoon. Today is Sunday, October 19th, 2025, and this is the 8th episode of Inside Trucking. Today we're going to talk about the duty of the Secretary of Transportation to decertify California in terms of issuing commercial driver licenses. There's a lot to talk about today, a lot to cover. Whole bunch of things are going on, and we want to address specifically this English language proficiency issue and the latest developments this past week. So let's start off by talking about how we know the most recent news is that Secretary Duffy has determined that the state of California is not in conformity with CDL program standards, and after giving multiple warnings, which apparently California continues to defy, the Secretary has made a determination that he is in fact going to cut off funding. And we're going to come back to that in just a second because we have some related news that we want to talk about first, and then we'll talk about that. So on Wednesday afternoon, in the state of Indiana, a truck driver by the name of Borko Stankovic, 41-year-old driver of Lions. He basically was operating a truck, and he got into an accident, and he killed someone. He actually killed a 54-year-old man from Indiana. Say his name, Jeffery Eberly. Jeffery Eberly is no longer with us because Mr. Stankovic took his life on the road. Now, the driver is facing reckless homicide, criminal recklessness, all sorts of problems this guy now has. The problem is that, and we're going to talk about how police say that they did not find a record of this guy's business in the DOT files, and the media has been reporting that for the last few days. But that's not true, and we're going to get into that. Let's get into it. One of the things that we saw after this incident happened on Wednesday, October 15th, 2025, was that Secretary Duffy actually chimed in, and he tweeted, and here's what he said. I got to use my reading glasses these days because I'm kind of getting a little older, so bear with me for just a second. He says, appalling, and this is a quote from his tweet, appalling, another tragic death on our roads. Here's what we know about the truck driver. Number one, an illegal who spoke broken English. There's that issue again. Illegal immigrants and ultimately not speaking English. But it gets worse. It's like the situation with the driver who killed Connor back in 2017. Of course, we're pushing for Connor's law to address all of this stuff. Number two, operating a big rig without a commercial driver license. So this is not a matter of, the state of Washington gave the guy a license and then the state of California gave him a non-domicile. This guy doesn't even have a commercial driver license, okay? That's a huge problem, but it's going to get worse. Wait till we tell you the full story. And number three, he says, held in an ICE detainer. So the guy is under the custody of immigration because he's an illegal immigrant, right? And then he says, Secretary Duffy, FMCSA is working closely with Indiana State Patrol to support their investigation. This is exactly why President Trump and I are working so hard to get dangerous foreign drivers off our roads. More to come. Well, there is more to come, and we're going to tell you what we did. So after reading some of these articles, we said, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense that this guy says he has a company And he even tells us the company name, Move RPM, he tells the police. And the police say, no, he doesn't have a company. He's not registered with U.S. Department of Transportation. The media reports this. It's all wrong, folks. It's not true. And now we have a bigger problem, because now when we do our simple research and go to Company Snapshot and look up Move RPM, we find out that the guy's got an active DOT number and he's got active operating authority from the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, despite the fact that he doesn't have a CDL and he's an illegal immigrant. How does an illegal immigrant with no CDL get operating authority from the federal government? We don't understand. In fact, that's what we wrote to Secretary Duffy on October 18th. And we said, FMCSA has enabled this guy to kill someone on our highways. And we're calling for an investigation into that issue, including an Inspector General investigation into why FMCSA is giving operating authority to illegal immigrants that don't have a CDL. Now, we went to SAFER, we went to licensing and insurance module of SAFER, and although now the insurance is in the process of being canceled, wonder why, right? The question is, how did he even get insurance? And we've asked Secretary Duffy and the FMCSA Commercial Investigations Unit and the Inspector General that question as well. So Progressive is his insurance company. How do you get insurance unless you tell the insurance company who's going to drive? Who did he tell was going to drive? Did he use fake driver names? He certainly didn't say, I'm going to drive, because then they would say, well, let's see your CDL, right? So is this fraud? Did he defraud the insurance company? Insurance fraud? This is like interstate commerce here, folks. So, I mean, now the feds need to look at this. Pam Bondi, Justice Department, U.S. Attorney in Indianapolis, right? And we've contacted all of those folks. FBI in Indianapolis. Something's wrong here. It's either insurance fraud or it's mail fraud or wire fraud. Something's not right here, that this guy got insurance for a trucking company that he owns, and he's one of the drivers, and he doesn't have a CDL. Okay, so just think about that for a moment, folks. And so this guy, he does have registration with USDOT. Now, that brings up another issue. That brings up an issue. If this guy is not a citizen, a lawful permanent resident, he's not from Mexico or Canada, he's not a North American domiciled motor carrier, then what is he? And essentially the answer is he's a non-North American domiciled owner of a motor carrier. And the problem is that FMCSA has regulations that allow that. And you may recall back in July, we protested that. We actually made a request for them to rescind the regulations that allow that, to repeal those regulations. And those regulations are found in 49 CFR 385.601 to 603. It's all about allowing carriers that are not based in the United States or anywhere in North America to apply for and obtain operating authority. Now, did he apply for authority under that provision, or did he make it look like it's a North American motor carrier? Depending on how he answered that question, that could be fraud on the U.S. government, fraud on FMCSA. So they should look at that as well. Now, when we brought that issue up, right, back in July, all of a sudden people started to say, oh my goodness, that is a solution in search of a problem. Well, do you still think that? Right? John Gallagher issued an article from Freight Waves, July 9th of 2025, right? And he quoted, I forget who it was here, somebody suggesting that, and ultimately the issue was, oh no, there's nothing to see here. Move along. Lamb is crazy, right? SBTC doesn't know what to focus on and what they're talking about, and ultimately now I guess I'm right? I guess there is a problem here because somebody's dead, and it's a guy who's a foreign national who owns a trucking company in the United States that was given operating authority, who's not a citizen. He's here illegally, and he doesn't have a goddamn CDL. Okay? So you all can take that and take it to the bank, and maybe you rethink about when we say there's a problem, it's a problem. Okay? It's a solution in furtherance of fixing a problem. Now, let's get back to Secretary Duffy. He's withholding $40 million. $40 million from California. You know why? You know how this whole thing started? That trucking media doesn't seem to want to tell you about? It started because we asked him to. May 27th, 2025, the Honorable Sean Duffy, U.S. Secretary of Transportation, petition for decertification of authority order pursuant to 49 U.S.C. 31312. We asked Secretary Duffy Memorial Day weekend to look into this, all of this stuff. We cited California, and we cited a whole nother bunch of states, and we basically said that the Secretary needs to conduct an investigation, which they've done, determine noncompliance, which in the case of California, they have done, decertify that state's authority to issue any CDLs. They kind of did that a little bit, but not fully, and we're still pursuing that. They made the states stop, they made the state of California stop issuing non-domicile CDLs. So it's partially there. And then defund, which now he's done, $40 million. Now, we had an interesting debate with artificial intelligence over the last few days, Grok. And so what we have here is kind of like a, 1-2 punch going on. And so we were debating Grok, and we said because he defunded, now he has to decertify, that it's his duty under the statute. It actually says that, right? And so we had this debate, and it says, in the law in chapter 313. Now here's going to be the distinction that you want to pay attention to, all you lawyers out there, all you people who are influencers out there. Here's what you want to hit the nail on the head, right? Chapter 313 versus chapter 311. That's where we clarified all this, thanks to Grok. And if you can hear me, Grok, thank you very much. Here's the thing. We said that California should be defunded and decertified under Chapter 313. Statute is 31312, right? And we said because they defunded, now they have to decertify. Grok says, no. He said, look at the letter that they sent. And in that letter, it's clear that the funding program that they're decertifying falls under Chapter 311, right? But then we went back and researched and went back to Grok, and we said, Grok, what about this other determination? The determination where they did an audit on California, and they looked at a sample, and 25% of the sample that they looked at in terms of non-domicile CDLs that they issued were illegal. And Secretary Duffy in the release on that says, and now we may defund. The lawyer who wrote the letter notifying the state of California, the governor, that they're being defunded, relied on the other chapter, 311. And so what we said is, because they made the determination that there was in fact 25% illegal non-domicile CDLs issued by the state of California, and they use such intense language about that, about how it's egregious and so on and so forth, we said the key word phrase here, Grok, is substantial non-compliance with Chapter 313. Ergo, if you are starting to say 25% is illegal and it's egregious, and you're saying of all the states, California is the worst, then that seems to be substantial non-compliance. And we said, don't you think so too, Grok, now that we have pointed out the release from Secretary Duffy about he's taking emergency action to protect America, blah, 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 right? And you know what Grok said? Here's what Grok said. He said, yes. I'm going to quote Grok. This is kind of funny, right? Because Grok's not a real thing, right? But here it is. Yes, the audit's 25% non-compliance rate in non-domicile CDLs, that's a sample that they did, deemed, quote, systemic and, quote, egregious by USDOT, rises to substantial non-compliance with Chapter 313's issuance standards, triggering 31312's mandatory duty. Secretary Duffy's emergency halt on such CDLs and the threat of further funding cuts signal this threshold met, obligating a formal order prohibiting all California CDL procedures until compliance. Partial measures like revocations insufficiently address the breach. Full decertification enforces uniform federal safeguards as statutorily required. I couldn't have said that any better than Grok. And I said that to Secretary Duffy and Derek Bars and the Inspector General and a whole slew of other people, 41 people, including the media, on this email that we sent out on October 17th. We said to the Secretary, we concur. The SBTC respectfully requests a meeting with you, Secretary Duffy, to discuss this and other pertinent matters. So we are asking the Secretary now to identify that he has a duty. He has a duty to act because he has found substantial noncompliance, and there is no discretion in the law. The law, Congress has directed the Secretary of Transportation that when you find substantial noncompliance, as he has evidently done, then you must decertify until they come back into compliance. So at this point, we have brought this to the attention of the powers that be at USDOT. And quite frankly, we're going to give them a couple of days, maybe a few days, to decertify California. And if they don't, then the SBTC board has to decide what to do next. And there's a bunch of different things, I think, that we can do. Our lawyer is already involved in this and talking to Larry Minor at FMCSA saying, hey, what's going on? What's your intentions? We need to know. What we could do, since there's no Chevron anymore, Chevron deference, right? We can go to court. And we could ask a federal judge to decertify, or at least enjoin through an injunction, temporary injunction, permanent injunction, enjoin California from issuing any more CDLs because, in effect, the law says they are now shut down. And the Secretary needs to tell them, but the judge could tell them. And we would prefer not to have to sue the Secretary because, heck, he's doing a lot of great things, right? And we'll talk to our lawyers, we might just sue California. And we might say, hey, we want action against California's CDL program because ultimately we are in a situation where the law requires that they be shut down. So maybe we sue California and we say, California, you need to be shut down. Judge, shut them down. And maybe the judge shuts them down. Otherwise, we may have to go to the court and say, we have to ask you to order the Secretary to shut them down. So we're not sure how this is all going to play out, but the Secretary has a duty, and we are respectfully requesting the Secretary do his duty. I'm going to send a copy of this episode of Inside Trucking to the Secretary once this is published at noon, and we're going to say, basically, we talk in this video about what should happen next. And really what should happen is Monday or Tuesday, the Secretary should decertify. He can always recertify, if they get into substantial compliance, but right now they're in substantial non-compliance. So the law is the law, and we respectfully request, Mr. Secretary, that you please comply with the law. So with that said, that's kind of where we're at, and in addition to that, Mr. Secretary, we really think you guys should be looking at why this illegal immigrant who just killed this man in Indiana, why he had operating authority, how he got operating authority, under what section of the regulations he applied for operating authority, if he acknowledged and admitted that he was not a citizen, a lawful permanent resident, that he was non-North America based. And you investigate this and find out why the FMCSA is giving people like this operating authority. And again, we ask you to repeal that regulation that allows FMCSA to do something like this. It is a problem. So with all due respect, we're here to hopefully bring these things to light and add our knowledge and expertise and insight and discover information that other people like the media and the police, don't know that guy was registered with FMCSA and currently has active authority and an active DOT number. And we've asked you, Mr. Secretary, to please issue an imminent hazard order. We're still waiting for an answer on the Hope Trans, by the way, who killed 5 people. So we respectfully request a meeting with you and Derek Bars, so we can, address a lot of these things. We think you're doing a great job, and but we think through partnership with industry, including trade associations like the SBTC, we really think that we can do a lot better here and significantly improve motor carrier safety and make the roads safe again. So that's it for today, folks. That's the latest news. We want to highlight the Secretary has a duty to shut down California DMV's CDL program, and we'll have some more news coming out shortly, and I'm sure in reference to this. We'll keep you updated on what the Secretary does with respect to that duty, and what, if anything, the SBTC does if that doesn't happen soon enough. So I'm James Lamb. This is Inside Trucking, and I'm the Executive Director of the Small Business and Transportation Coalition. I thank you for tuning in, and we will be back after these messages.